I've been giving some thought to this situation we're in right now, where the American President Donald Trump has proposed to create tariffs on imports to the United States. And we have a large number of economists and politicians throughout Europe who are really frustrated by this and saying that this is protectionism and what we really need is free trade. And of course it's not news to us that the economists as a profession want to safeguard free trade. But I find this quite problematic for several reasons. One is that we have simultaneously criticized Donald Trump for denying climate change. We have criticized him for pulling out of the Paris deal and for saying that climate change is an invention of the Chinese. He doesn't believe in it. So we're criticizing Donald Trump, as I see it, from two very different directions. On one hand, we're criticizing him for not understanding the seriousness of the climate crisis. On the other hand, we're criticizing him for an economic policy that might reduce trade, which means reducing transports, which would actually, from another perspective, be good for the environment or for the climate. So this contradiction, to me, reveals the schizophrenic attitude of mainstream economics to trade and environment, because I think it's a contradiction in terms to want to increase trade and also improve the environment and stabilize the climate, because you can't have one without the other. Basically, there is a big contradiction between trade and the environment. What I want to focus on is not so much a trade policy as the logic of money, or at least what we anthropologists call general purpose money, the idea that everything is interchangeable on a globalized market. Because what it does do to nation states, to corporations, and to individual consumers is to make us want to save money by buying the things that are least expensive. And this means that inadvertently, without really knowing what we're doing, we're continuously encouraging the lowest wages, the least expensive labor, and the least concern for the environment, because that is going to give us the cheapest commodities. So if we just let loose the logic of money in a globalized market, we're going to see greater economic inequalities between people with low wages and people who have high purchasing power, and we're going to see more and more environmental destruction. So I would actually say that the logic of the idea of money, the idea of generalized interchangeability, actually creates both greater inequality and more environmental destruction. And when we think of the European Union, for me, ever since the 80s or 90s, it's obvious that it has been a project to increase globalized trade, to give money free rein. And it means, at least in a very abstract sense, that the European Union represents an encouragement of increasing inequalities, such as those Thomas Piketty showed in his book, Capital in the 21st Century. And of course also environmental degradation, including climate change. All these things that we're seeing happening to the planet and to human society around us are consequences of the logic of money, I would argue. The EU has had the project of developing a common currency, of course, the euro and the eurozone. And I think that there are a lot of good ideas with having one globalized currency, but I don't think we should not relegate human destiny or the destiny of the biosphere to this globalized currency. We need to separate things that should reasonably be exchanged on a global market from things that should not be exchanged on a global market. I think it's, for example, very irrational to fly tomatoes back and forth between Europe and North America because somebody's making 2 or 3 cents on every kilogram. It's irrational to let the market include everything. Karl Polanyi argued this in 1944 at the end, towards the end of the Second World War, in the book The Great Transformation. He basically argued that the idea of the self-regulating market was destroying social life, nature, and even finances, because all of these things, land, labor, and money, were only fictitious commodities, and they should not be commoditized. And I think, were he alive today, he would have agreed with me that we need some kind of other kind of exchange going on alongside the globalized market, so as to keep some resources within a local frame of reference. It's simply not rational to send foodstuffs across half the planet, because it means spending a lot of fossil energy that only results in climate change. So we do need to distinguish between a local sphere of survival and subsistence and the kind of global sphere where we exchange things that we really need to exchange globally, like medicine, like some computer equipment and so on that cannot be produced locally. But I cannot see the point of importing food from New Zealand or Brazil to Scandinavia. It's irrational. So we have to change the definition of rationality, I think.